Welcome back to another episode of Fred Jr.'s Garage, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to check for leaks on your Vintage Air AC system. Our application is in this 1977 Pontiac Trans Am. We installed this kit last summer, and it's worked great so far. However, we got in it the other day, cranked up the AC just like you want to in the summertime, and I could smell some Freon. Let's take a look and see what's going on. Before we hook our gauges up to this Vintage Air system, Vintage Air does not put dye from the factory into their system, so there's no dye in the compressor oil. Let's add some dye in the system and test it out. We're going to dump a little bit of this into our manifold before we hook it up. That way we can cycle it through the system. And just to save on some of the mess, we're going to use a small syringe to do it. So I'm not a fan of being covered in UV dye, so for this we broke out some gloves. So for this we're going to open our refrigerant line all the way. We're also going to open the vacuum line all the way. Tilt our gauges upside down. And just slowly inject it right into the vacuum line. Now that all that's in there, let's close up our lines, put our hoses on, and test it out. Now that all four of those are verified as closed, let's hang this up and hook up some gauges. We're going to remove the fill caps from the high and low pressure port and attach the gauges. We've got our shop fan going, and that's just going to help blow air over the system. Let's crank up the car. We're going to give it just a minute to warm up a little bit, then we're going to run our idle up to 1500 RPMs, turn our Vintage Air system on to a medium fan speed, and test out the system. Now for this part of the testing, we have to run our idle up to 1500 RPMs. If you don't have a second person to help you, we're going to use our trusty piece of wire and tie back the throttle a little bit. And there it kicks on. Let's give it a minute and let's see what the gauges have to say.
And here's where we inject the dye into the system. We're going to open the low side port on our manifold and then slowly open the high side port. The pressure from the high side port is going to push the dye through the manifold into the low side and circulate it through the system, as you can see in the sight glass.
Now that we're in here where we can talk a little bit, our high side pressure is about 60 pounds low, so we're going to go ahead and add a little bit of Freon to it. Looks like our AC is saying 45, so it's not horrible, but you can tell it's definitely been better, and I know it definitely cooled better. So our system's a little low. Let's add a little bit of Freon to it, and then we're going to check for some leaks. I don't know if you guys can tell, but that took us down 10 degrees. We were at 45, and now it's at 35. That's right where it should be. So let's go ahead and shut this off, and let's talk a little bit more about what we've got going on and how we're going to check for leaks. Let's look at our numbers. Vintage Air wants the high side pressure to be 160 to 270 in that range. They say the general rule of thumb is 2 times the ambient daytime temperature, which right now is 101, plus 15 to 20%. So 18%, we just split it up, gives us 235. Our high side pressure is sitting right at 200, and our low side is sitting 18 psi-ish. It's kind of hard to tell on this gauge because it's such a high range. And Vintage Air even says that their low side suction is lower than a normal factory AC car would be. They want their duct temperature 36 to 46 degrees, and we're pretty much at 36 degrees. It's sitting right at 35, 36 on that thermometer. Most any UV light will do for this. We have a cheapo Husky here that also has a UV light in it. So let's take a look around and see what we can find. Now, right off the bat up here at the AC compressor, I don't expect to find much because I could smell it. I felt like inside, but we're just taking a look anyhow. We've got our UV light. I don't see anything on the lines there. I don't see anything on our fittings there going into our condenser and our dryer. And our dryer's kind of hard to see, but you can kind of see it there. Nothing on the fittings on that. Oh yeah, even more so on this. I'm not sure how well it's going on the camera. can see that dye inside that flip port. And that's what it's going to look like anywhere that you can see the dye leaking. If you have a leak, you're going to see. All right, so we don't see any dye on our vents in the center, which is promising. Nor do I see it inside there. But if you had a leak there, you would see all over this thing, there would be splatters of the dye from leaking inside the system. I don't see any on the side vent. Let's crawl under the dash. Now, mind you, it's kind of hard to see up in here. And we do need to take a look at the top side.
Now looking at the top side of our condenser box, nothing jumps out at me. If there were something leaking, we'd see that neon spray pattern somewhere up here. But everything looks clear.
So, I'm not super surprised. I think the system might have just been a little low on Freon, but let's go drive it around and make sure. We're driving around, AC's blowing nice and cool, car's running nice and cool. When we installed this kit last year, it was at the tail end of summer by the time we actually got it done. So our temp outside was in the 90s. It wasn't super hot. This is the first time that we've really had to torture test the system and see what it does. However, we noticed it wasn't quite as cold as it should be. Well, nice and cold now though. Driving around, it's 105, so it's getting hot. It's gonna get hotter today. But we either didn't have enough Freon in the system, or we have a leak somewhere that we still don't know of. I'll let you be the judge of that. For now, I think this one might have been user error. Until next time, thanks for watching.